Hi, welcome to Thaddaus Dawson Speaks, where liberation through valuation and soul meets soil. Today we have a very special guest. As always, I know I say that every week, but this is somebody that I really love, trust, and respect, and who has been a mentor to me. He is a retired professor at Morehouse College, but he is actually still teaching at Morehouse. He is Atlanta's first black MAI, I do believe, and he's also at the forefront of cutting technology with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. He actually introduced me to cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And today we're just going to talk about from the plantation to the plant to tokenization, the future of real estate and blockchain technology and smart contracts. He used a proof of concept a couple of years ago, buying a piece of property with fractional interest, utilizing cryptocurrency, and that is actually the future of real estate. Just recently, this past week, there was an article published about BlackRock wanting to tokenize everything, and by tokenizing everything, that's over $630 trillion worth of real estate. Uh, and if you just capitalize 10% or capture 10% of that, that's $63 trillion that they're working on tokenization of real estate. So without further, also I wanted to thank Oscar for always stepping in to, we share an entrepreneurial class at Best Academy. He's an amazing instructor and just a phenomenal human being. And I'm, I'm I'm remiss to ask him how he keeps reverse aging. He looks younger today than he did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, actually. I wish we could. Rick, do we still got that picture of him on that TV show uh, where he looked like Homer Simpson? Without
You
further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Professor Oscar Sistrunk.
right. Hey, Thaddeus, thank you. I really enjoyed coming on your show. I love talking about the future, and I think that's what keeps people young. You got to keep moving forward and keep looking towards the future. But I want to thank you for having me on, and I'd love to spend a little time here talking about what is my new passion, which is, I guess, the blockchain and real estate. And what I did, just a quick kind of like summary, is 4 years ago, back in 2022, I used the blockchain and crypto, really decentralized finance, to borrow money to buy some investment property. And the return over the last 4 years has been phenomenal. And that's why BlackRock, I think they've seen it too, and they know that that's the future. And that's what I kind of want to talk about today.
Oh, absolutely. And what I also like to be you to be able to expand is when you invest like that, everybody gets a chance to invest, and you have an accurate record based on the blockchain tracking everybody's interest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. What the blockchain really is, and when we talk about blockchain, there's kind of like this theory of blockchain, but then there are actual many different blockchains. Bitcoin is the first blockchain, but when you hear Ethereum, for example, that's a blockchain. Solana is another blockchain. And the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is that Ethereum, they took the blockchain and basically put contracts on it. Almost like, if you know about programming, they really did what I would call if-then statements, right? For those people who kind of know about programming. So if something happens, then something else happens. And that's basically what Ethereum is all about. So, right, I could say, if I give you $5, then you give me something back. Bitcoin, their blockchain doesn't have that kind of decision tree. So I use decentralized finance through the Ethereum blockchain. And what a blockchain is, it's kind of like a database or a big spreadsheet where it tracks all transactions. And I tell people this: can you go to Bank of America, go to your branch, and ask the branch manager that you want to see all transactions on the Bank of America's computer over the last 20 years? They'd look at you not only crazy, they'd probably lock you up. You say, you can't do that.
Really?
But with a blockchain, all transactions are available for you to see at any time. So you
So
can
why does
track.
that would make them immutable? So why does that matter?
Because that's the beauty of blockchain. It's a database that's open to everybody. It can't be changed. It can't be adjusted. There's no, you don't need to go to any middleman and ask for permission. The computer will basically make sure that what you want to do can be done. And there's a network of computers called nodes that are out there that check each other and to make sure that one computer can't control the other. And you've got to get the consensus of all the computers to be able to do what you do. That transaction's recorded. It's then put in a block as part of the chain, and it can't be changed. But you can go in and look at it. So I can go back to 2009 when Bitcoin first started, and I can see the first transaction. All the way till
you
today.
can see the first transaction. Why is Ethereum more functional than Bitcoin?
Because what they did with Ethereum is they basically said, we put this decision tree in there, right? So not only do can I put these transactions, but I can also make these transactions subject to something, right? So if you pay me $50, then this happens. If you don't pay me $50, it doesn't happen.
So with that, utilizing the Ethereum, what about the gas fees? Have they been able to bring down the gas fees to utilize Ethereum?
Ethereum gas fees have dropped tremendously in the past 4 years.
So that's even increased its utility more.
That's right. And it's continuing to do so. They're continuing to make changes to it and make it faster. And the good thing is because other blockchains like Solana have come along, and that forced Ethereum to become more efficient, to become better, and to become faster. And so now, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, so with that, gas fees are down tremendously with Ethereum to try and keep up with Solana, plus what they call layer 2, like, what was it? Some of these layer 2s that are out there, they lay on top of Ethereum and help it run even faster and cheaper.
So what happens to the blockchain when the power cuts off?
Well, it would have to cut off globally. There are nodes all over the world. For example, I now have a Bitcoin node in my house. And what a node is, it's a computer connected to the blockchain recording every transaction. So every Bitcoin transaction now lays in a hard drive on my computer. And it sits there, and anytime a transaction occurs, it's one of the nodes that now authorizes that transaction and stores it on my computer.
Can you tell us what a cypherpunk is?
The only thing I know about it is as it relates to NFTs and stuff. I'm not sure. That's a little bit outside. That's what them young people deal with. I don't know that much about it, other than the NFTs associated with it.
So would you say digital currency, like the blockchain, is a friend or a foe?
It's the future. It's a friend, and it's going to replace the U.S. economy and the U.S. currency, and basically all government currencies. And it couldn't have come at a better time, because you see what's happening in the United States. they're going to hyperinflate the currency until it's worthless. But now we're going to have this global currency running on a decentralized system that the governments can't manipulate, that they can't control. And it's going to lead to a future in which, for the digital economy that's coming, for AI, for all of that, it's going to be the financial layer that sits on top of this virtual economy. It's almost like when the internet, I've been to some seminars, it reminds me of when the internet started in the early 90s. And you looked at it, but you couldn't tell me in the early 90s that we would have social media, we have all of these different kind, everybody now connects to everybody else without a middleman. The only middleman are these centralized systems like YouTube and X and Facebook. But I went to a seminar at Georgia Tech. As a matter of fact, I volunteered to work there. And these young people are now developing decentralized networks in which they have basically a YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but they're decentralized. They're on a blockchain. So there will be nobody sitting out there controlling what you can and can't do or taking profit out of it, right? If you're making money through YouTube, then Google usually gets a cut. They won't be getting a cut anymore.
So this is empowering people to build wealth and move forward without being suppressed. One of the things that I've been concerned about, and I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions about it, is because so many communities have been undervalued, once that digital record occurs, it's going to be permanent, and it's a permanent undervaluation. And that's why I'm so strongly supporting and advocating for a reconsideration of value, so you can get the proper value established to be on the blockchain. Because if not, the obsolescence and depreciation, functional and external, will just compound and keep moving forward.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, this is the beauty of it, especially in underserved communities. And it's part of a project we're working on at Morehouse. But I tell people what it's going to do is it's going to cut out the middleman, and it's going to basically, as it decentralized everything, those communities that have been underserved, where the real returns are, you're going to be able to capture those and end up with higher returns because you're starting from a lower base, right? So if you think about it, you know, we're in Atlanta, so I can give some examples, but basically you're going to be able to, let me give you a quick example. People in China can get a visa to come to the United States if they own property in the United States. I could take part ownership of this rental property I own, I could fractionalize it, put it on the blockchain, and make it available for lease to people in China. Then that Chinese investor can temporarily buy a piece of my ownership, claim that ownership in the U.S., and be able to come into the United States saying, hey, I own some property.
So would that be what you would consider tokenization?
Right. So think of my ownership as a token that not only can I sell it, I can rent it. I could rent my ownership to anybody in the world who can use it for however they want to, and then give it back to me. Right? And you can rent it for 6 months. The ownership, not the actual rental of the unit, but imagine you can rent 10% of the ownership of my property.
So how does that translate to when folks were buying virtual real estate in the metaverse?
Right, because see, the metaverse is, of course, virtual real estate. We're talking about real estate in the real world, analog real estate at the corner by your house. And now, it gives those, you buy it, and then you rent out parts of the ownership for people who can use it however they want to use it. And then when that lease period is over, I get it back.
What kind of return do you get on renting it for that period?
I don't know, but that's the beauty of it, right? This is going to be brand new. The rents are, I mean, I bet you the returns are going to be high in the beginning, but eventually, as this thing grows, it'll even itself out. But there's going to be a lot of alpha return by getting into this thing early.
What do you recommend for communities trying to play offense as opposed to defense? Because a lot of times folks just wait too long.
Right. Now is the time. Anybody here who hears about this, now's the time to take the next couple of years to learn about this stuff, to play with it. However you want to learn. I mean, there are YouTube videos. It's like me. I got out there 4 years ago to just kind of play around with this thing. Now I understand after 4 years the unbelievable returns. Just one example. When you use decentralized finance to borrow money, there is no monthly mortgage payment. So I borrow, and by the way, it's instant. I didn't have to fill out an application. I didn't have to check my credit score. I didn't have to go to some broker or nothing. I just went, and within an hour, I had my loan and the money in my bank account.
So
and
how
then
does
I
that
used,
relate as far as
then I
interest rate?
used that cash to buy the house. Once I bought that house, because that decentralized loan has no monthly mortgage payment, every month I collected rent, but I didn't have a mortgage payment to pay. So think of the rental property you have. In this case, I have a rental property in which I collect $1,000 a month rent. I have no mortgage payment. I just pay the annual taxes and insurance, which worked out to about $2,000 a year. So I was making $10,000 a year in positive cash flow. And you say, well, what about the loan? Well, it was the interest rate, which was about 2%, was accumulating. But that $10,000, I used that to pay mostly the principal down. So after 4 years, I had that mortgage paid.
So what does that do when we start talking about interest rates and closing costs? All those things are out the window now.
Well, you still have to use the analog system to close it, right? So we still had an attorney to close it, but I didn't have to deal with a bank. I didn't have to deal with any points. I didn't have to deal with trying to, application. None of that. I got my $50,000 in a matter of minutes. It might have taken an hour to do it all, but that was because I was a little slow. And the bank, where the money showed up, took a little while for the bank to clear it.
So what would you say is the enemy? The technology or the education around it, or ignorance?
Well, there really is the only enemy is the old analog banking system that's going to go away. And if you heard, Trump just had a meeting with the banks because the banks are scared. As a matter of fact, what people listening to this, when was the last time you went to a bank and went inside of a bank? The only people inside the bank are old people like me writing checks and going in there trying to get some money. Young people aren't in the bank. For what? You see branches from a real estate standpoint as a commercial appraiser. I see bank branches closing every day. People aren't in there doing
a bank earlier today, so I might be old like you.
Exactly. And who'd you see? You saw more boomers like you in there. There weren't no young people in there.
I'm not quite a boomer. I'm like, what's after the boomers?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm right behind you though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a late boomer. But anyway, yeah, the banks and all of them are going away. And you know what I say? Good. I remember when the bank used to give me trouble all the time. I'm not gonna miss them 1 minute.
How do we educate people on how to use the blockchain the token smart, and you mentioned NFTs earlier, and folks get so hung up on acronyms. The NFT is the non-fungible tokens, which is another form on the blockchain. Can
Right.
you talk about how people can protect their intellectual property through using the non-fungible tokens?
Right. See, as not, for those who remember 4 years ago, it was all about these NFTs and these pictures and all that kind of stuff. That was just the kind of like the beginning of testing a system where think about a title on your car being sort of like an NFT that's on the blockchain and that you could sell or lease or rent out part ownerships of that vehicle. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to be used. It's just like the internet 40 years ago or 35 years ago when people talked about being able to communicate with folks without going through Bell South or the old AT&T system and being able to do what we're doing now, right? 30 years ago, 35 years ago, people thought what we're doing right now was like Star Trek. That's the future. Now, that's a long way from now. Well, 20 or 30 years from now, that's what they're going to be talking about when we talk about real estate ownership, when we talk about the banks. So the banks are scared. Their time is coming to an end. Think of all the middlemen, even us as appraisers. Once all this stuff gets to the blockchain can value the ownership of real estate based on all the transactions that it has.
And will I guess because it is so smart, it'll be able to accurately value the fractional interest or
That's
fractional
right.
ownership because it'll always be recorded. Now, will
That's
you be
right.
able to look up people's fractional interest? How secure will
Yeah,
it
but
be?
no, you can do it now. It's just that they don't do it by name. They do it by kind of like an IP address. But basically, everybody has a wallet address. So if I know your wallet address, which is a 20,
Think you might be in a bad spot. One of the things until you come back in is talking about the different terms of the blockchain and in land and especially in the heirs property space. What are your thoughts around heirs property being secured on the blockchain in order to be able to keep the digital record to keep the property in the family?
right? That's what's going to happen, right? So that when it's time for me to go see my ancestors, my kids just have basically my ID.
So you don't have to worry about the whole fractionalization because you've already converted and passed it on.
Right. And see, now I start bypassing the whole US government system, which is what I want to do, right? So I don't have to worry about if I pass away, taxes on on transfer of ownership. I just give the ownership key to my kids.
So then, does that mean you bypass the taxes as well, estate tax,
Well, let me
inheritance
say
tax?
let, let me say this. I'm not going to snitch on myself, but you know what I'm saying?
We just trying to educate the people. We just
I
talking
know.
in generality.
Yeah, I know. I'm playing, but yes, you're going to bypass the whole United States system. You're going global. And that's why the United States and some people are worried about this. What happens when all your ownership goes onto the blockchain and you're able to do things where they can't track you? How do you pay your estate taxes? How do you pay taxes, period?
Well, they did have an awareness where you were supposed to have to report all of your blockchain earnings, but that was rescinded. So,
Yeah, well,
um,
if you wanna snitch on yourself, you go ahead and do it. Right?
so
If you
what
if
is
you
the
feel
best?
comfortable, you know what I'm saying? You could that it would be very hard to find you if you knew what you were doing.
But then
And I'm
it's
sure the
also all somebody has to do is grab your wallet. Where is the security in that?
because you can secure your wallet. There's certain things you do and don't do. You can have a hard wallet, right? Which is different from a soft wallet. A soft wallet is always connected to the internet. A hard wallet is a separate device that you have to plug in to make your wallet hot. If it's not, it's like taking it and it's like putting it on a USB drive. Take that drive off and stick it in a drawer somewhere. Nobody can access it without that key, without that USB drive. I don't care where they are.
So
now your wallet can be hot, and it can be on your phone or it can be on your computer, but there are ways to protect it from that too.
And I was just looking earlier today. What are your thoughts about Bitcoin being down under 73,000? I think it went in at a high at 120.
Yeah, because my system had already predicted we'd reach a high by September, October. I'm going to predict something right now to you. It's going to hit the low next December.
And what do you see that being?
Man, this economy could crash, right? I think something bad is going to happen. And if this economy crashes, I would not, I could see Bitcoin going down to $30,000.
Well, it went down to 17, last year, 2 years ago?
Well, back the last cycle, right. It was down to around 20, or even under 20.
Yeah,
so theoretically,
it was like at 16 or 17 for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. Because it goes through a 4-year cycle. We know the supply side of crypto, of Bitcoin. It's all demand side, and demand goes in a cycle. And that's why I do mine based on the monthly Bitcoin average from the beginning. I've got a chart or a table where I have every month the average monthly Bitcoin price on the first day of the month, going all the way back to 2009. And it shows a clear cycle. That's why back in 2023, 24, my chart predicted that we'd reach the top by October of 26, or 25, I mean.
So should folks have cashed out at that point and then come back in December? Or do you suggest they just stay in it and go for the long haul?
Right. If you're going for the long haul, you just don't buy any more. You wait for it to hit the bottom. Like I said, mine's predicting December of 26. When it starts hitting towards the bottom, the fourth quarter of 26 is I'm going to start buying again.
Okay. What is a good strategy for novice, and who do you find mostly involved in the blockchain? I know you've been beating me up with it for a few years, and it took me a while to sort of get on board.
But that's fine. We're early in the game. We're still in the second inning.
And I like the way that you explained it, and one of the things that you explained to me, that we're still in the early phases, and how it's going to grow is we have to look at it like the automobile. First, Henry Ford, they started with the automobile, but there was no infrastructure. But then when the highways and byways opened up, everybody needed a car. And before they thought the car was never going to outlast a horse. So now we're at the early phases of it, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Right. And one example is how many people carry currency with them, actual dollars and quarters and dimes. How many people now are 100% digital? They tap their phone. They tap their card. It's like my kids tell me, whenever they start talking about currency, they say, "Oh, you're just a boomer, Dad." Nobody carries currency anymore. It's all tap or it's your card. But that's getting you ready. That's getting you ready.
What is your recourse? Will you be able to use a crypto credit card, or everything will be on the phone?
No, well, probably on the phone or something, or like some future people I follow, they talk about you'll just have a chip in your hand and it'll be on your thumb.
So what do you think about what Larry Fink of BlackRock talked about. Every asset can be tokenized.
It sure can. All ownership moves to the blockchain. Now, I've talked about something that's really out there. What about people's ownership on the blockchain?
What do you mean? Your social security numbers, your
No,
driver's
yeah,
license?
no. If I want to, I can. I work for somebody, and in a way, I could take. You could take a percentage of my future income.
Of your
You
future
pay me.
income.
Yeah, if let's say I find a 14-year-old phenom basketball player, I tell him, listen, I'll pay for your high school and college. I'll pay for everything, and then when you get to the NBA, I get 10% of all your income.
Oh, that's almost scary when you start thinking about people being taken advantage of.
I
How do you
know.
prevent that?
Well, or how do you figure? Hey, I'm a young kid and I'm in the low income area, but maybe it's not basketball or sports. Maybe I'm a musician, and at 10 years old, I'm already writing songs and stuff. And this kid has really good talent. He just needs to go to a private school and he needs to learn this stuff. And somebody saying, hey, I'll give your family a house. I'll set you all up. I just want 5% of the record income that he's going to be producing in 20 years.
So now you're about to be the digital Barry Gordy.
Right. But I'm taking a risk. Some of those kids won't make it. But what if I had 10% or 5% of all this records or all the income that Snoop Dogg does? But I helped put his family in a really nice place, put he and his siblings in a good school, and I helped him out and got him going.
So they get to stay and remain where they are even after the career doesn't work out.
Right.
So
And
it's not,
you get a cut of all that he generates in the next 20, 30 years. I mean, this thing could get, I'm thinking outside the box, but it's almost like 1992 when you talked about the internet and what could it become, right? Nobody knew about Facebook, Instagram, all this other stuff,
so what should our
but
students be focusing on?
learning about this, start at the beginning where, what like the young people tell me, get in where you fit in and start learning. If you know about real estate, then start learning about cryptocurrency in general and start learning about fractional interest and the blockchain. Buy $100 worth of Bitcoin and start playing around with it. Just install a wallet. You can start with a hot wallet like Coinbase on your phone, and you start playing with it.
Which wallets do you recommend for beginners? And what's easier for, let me say, more seasoned folks?
It's hard to say. I started and I still have my Coinbase wallet, but I also have what's called a Rabi wallet. I have one of those. You can have multiple wallets with multiple accounts.
What does the security
Making
look
it
like
even
for those?
harder for people. You're right. You don't want one point of uh you don't want to have like one point of failure. So you can have multiple wallets, multiple accounts. I got hot wallets and cold wallets.
Mm,
I've got
okay.
resources on both. I've got multiple um, addresses.
What about folks that are just getting started? There's so much fear surrounding it, and a lot of people refer to it as funny money, and
Right.
they don't
But
think
that's what I'm saying. I
it's
remember when
tangible.
students were complaining about getting email addresses. When I used to make them in the early 90s, get an email address. Man, I don't want anybody knowing everything about me. I don't need people emailing me and I got to read the email and I got to do all this and that. Man, if I want some, I just write a letter and send it off. I don't
Mm.
want people contacting me all the time.
Yeah, but
You
now the
know, and
communication is instantaneous. And the one thing that I do like about the blockchain, it moves even faster, and with it, it's encrypted and secured.
That's right. It can't be hacked. It can't be changed. Even with supercomputers.
And so, why can't it be hacked with supercomputers? Because the computers now are faster than ever.
Right. But remember, you're going to have supercomputers as nodes also.
Okay.
So they're not going to have Windows 98 on these machines. Everybody's going to be fast.
Okay. And what does it do? How accessible is it for smaller countries with lack of access or lack of power?
They're going to have to build their infrastructure, right? And just like we talked about the infrastructure of the blockchain, all of those rails and all that kind of stuff has to be built. You gave a great example when you talk about the automobile. When the automobile first came out, they were driving on dirt roads and stuff. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody know about the interstate or even state routes or even county routes or city routes. You were riding a car on a daggone horse trail.
Okay.
They could never imagine a system like we have 100 years ago.
Well, we are here now, and I thank you for all that you have shared with me in opening my eyes and continue to challenge me to grow. And I'm looking forward to being able to pass that information on. Actually, I just supplement whatever it is that you are saying and been preaching to the students. So again, it's something that people need, and I feel that it's really empowering folks moving forward, especially with the opportunity to raise capital through the blockchain, and then keeping a digital record of it, and then you can trade it in full in real time. I think it works really well in the cooperative model, the land trust model, and across all fronts. Back to what the guy from BlackRock said, as far as everything could actually be tokenized.
That's right. And this is a way for our community and First Nations communities to basically leapfrog and become one of the more advanced. I mean, in other words, we can build a Black Tulsa on the blockchain. Think about it.
Yeah. And you have to look for alternative ways for financing. Even though they're starting to eliminate. Do you think that was part of the drive to eliminate credit restrictions in home buying?
Yeah, they have to be able to compete against decentralized finance. That's the problem. The future, and because I've been using it for 4 or 5 years, I'm telling you, it makes banks obsolete. You can become your own bank.
And so won't banks try to compete in order to survive? Won't they pivot into the blockchain?
If they can, remember a company called Sears?
Yep.
Remember a company called Kmart?
Yep.
Yeah, some of them can, but some of them too slow.
Okay. So that's your prediction. So
yes,
again, I want to thank you for coming on to the show. I know you were traveling and you took this time out. So I'm thankful and grateful that you honored this. Anything you want to say to close?
No, just that for everybody out there, you need to start learning about this, even if it's just watching some YouTube channels or get some books, or if you want to take an inexpensive course, if that helps you do it. Just take your time. There's no rush. This is early. This is the internet, 1992.
How much time do people have?
That's right. Just start wherever you can and begin. I started talking about Bitcoin in 2014 in my classes, but I didn't start actually buying Bitcoin until 2019. It took me 5 years of watching this thing to make sure it was really legit.
Well, again,
so we're not in a rush.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we're not in a rush. So
that's right.
I know that you always are a big proponent of dollar cost averaging.
Yep.
in order that you don't get caught up in the swings. So it
That's right.
marginalizes your wins and losses and keeps you in a growth pattern.
Right. And see, remember when I started, I didn't start with a wallet. I started with a Robinhood account.
Okay.
Like now, you can start with PayPal or Cash App, and you can buy Bitcoin. Right.
Yep.
And you start that way, and then eventually you say, "Oh, okay. If I use a wallet, I can save transaction costs. So let me do a wallet." And then you start playing around with the wallet. And then with the wallet, you say, "Oh man, there's these applications out there that make me even more money. You know, I can take my currency and I can invest it and make 7, 8, 9, 10% annual return without the bank getting a cut. I bypass the bank." And as people learn this, the bank realizes that people aren't putting their money in savings accounts anymore. They're putting it in their wallet and going to these systems and cutting out the middleman.
Well, I think that's the theme of the day: cutting out the middleman and decentralizing. So many things have been decentralized, and it sort of levels the playing field for the small guy.
Exactly. For us in our community, and especially disenfranchised communities, it brings us up to par and basically gives us the ability to do what everybody else does. That's one reason why you see what you see with the government. They know this. They know their time is limited. They know what this is. BlackRock knows. They used to talk, remember, they used to talk bad about this stuff. Not anymore.
Well,
they're going to
thank
try
you
to
for
get ahead
always
of it.
being plugged into the future, and all of your 4 generations of students that you have produced at Morehouse, and they're out here taking over the world. And I always, I still, if you could see, I didn't go to Morehouse because I didn't pass the paper bag test. Do y'all still have that?
No, not anymore, because they don't even know what paper bags are. It's all plastic.
Well,
It's
thanks
all
again for
digital.
coming
They don't
on
know
to the
nothing.
show. Thank all of our listeners and subscribers. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for coming on to Thaddaus Dawson Speaks, Liberation Through Valuation, where soul meets soil. And we'll see you next Monday. Take care.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Don't get left behind. Preserve